Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Cardiff City World. Welcome to a special Tuesday night live. And we're going to have a look at some different things, some free transfers and whatnot. But as we wait for all the latecomers to arrive and people to get their notifications, make sure you subscribed, liked, all that good stuff on the old channel. And as for the first time, but not the first time, because I jumped on Evan's show the other day, I'm joined by Evan. How are you, mate? You okay?
Yeah, I'm trusting the process again, like I do every year with Cardiff. But no, I generally am. I don't know. I think it's right. This is where they get me every year. Is that like I get really pumped up talking about the preseason, all that stuff, and everything, and it's great to finally have a proper one with you after a long time. But it's just like I can't not get excited and thinking, oh no, here we go again. But yeah, no, I'm doing great right now. Ask me again at the end of the season, maybe we'll see.
Yeah, well, I'm going to throw a cat amongst the pigeons and say that the process is about to change. So there we go. I'll let people make of that what they will. But anyway, can't talk about that at the moment. So, Joe Bennett, back to Cardiff City, free transfer, been linked to the club today. Not like heavily, but just sort of came up in social media. And I thought it was an interesting topic to sort of kick us off because first and foremost, I don't think he's good enough to be first choice at centre back or left back. I also don't think he's got the pace to play in Brian Barry Murphy's system. However, if his wages were really quite low on a free transfer, I would probably take him because we've got a very big lack of cover at left centre back and left back. But most of all, I think his personality and his experience would be vital after losing Calmo Dowda, Joe Rawls, Aaron Ramsey. Like, we've lost a lot of experience. We're going to have a very, very young squad. And I think him being there and just filling in now and again would be quite an intelligent signing, providing he's not on like 20 grand a week or whatever. If he's on decent wages, I would probably do it. I got to be honest, but that might throw the cat amongst the pigeons a little bit. I don't think he's someone necessarily that the manager would have been looked at. I think it might be one that just comes up and it's like, oh, that could be quite interesting. Because I don't think he'd play a lot. But I think as a personality around a changing room who can just dip in and out when required, probably all right. He played centre-back for Oxford towards the end of the season as well.
Interesting.
So, what do you think?
I think, for me, it's nostalgia, right? Because of the Premier League days. And even before that, I think it's just nice to have, like when I was in school, when I was younger, you had a mix. This is like the mix of like the old school teachers versus like the newer teachers. I don't know why, but I always like that kind of old school kind of ways of doing things. And he's not, obviously, I'm not saying he's that old or whatever, but he is coming towards the end of his career now. And it would be nice to have something back just to show the current players, because we've got a really young squad, right? And even with some of the senior players, they still don't really, they haven't seen what it's like for a long time to play in the Premier League. I mean, think of the players we take on that seniors. They haven't really been Premier League fit for a while, even though they have played in some of those teams. So I think just Joe Bennett, he just brings back that kind of the nostalgia in a way. But I think it's more for the fans. I think you'll benefit. I think if you bring back something like that, how can you not get the fans on your side with it? And, basically nobody. I mean, Joe Rawls has left now. So it's like not even Perry and Gilon they played with. Maybe Perry at best played with Joe Bennett. I think that was about it. But yeah, to me, it just makes complete sense, which is why I think it probably won't happen somehow. It's just the Cardiff City way. But no, I think we're really just dying out for someone like them, experience, I guess. But,
I guess the problem is if Cardiff are trying to be careful with the wage budget and stuff like that, you've got to justify people's wages. And I truly don't think he would play a lot of games, because I think if we play three at the back, Bagan will be the left centre back, And I think if we play 4 at the back, he probably doesn't get in there, and Bagan's going to be the left back. But if Bagan gets injured in the first week of the season, we need some sort of cover. And we're going to have, I think the way we're going, our average age could end up being like 23 or something. Like, we are going to have such a young squad.
Yeah.
I would, if it was up to me, I would offer him a player coach role with predominantly more coaching, but having him registered to play if needs be in an emergency. I would also have had Sean Morrison involved by now.
I was going to mention his name. Yeah. Even said himself like that he was looking to get into a coaching role at some time, but he didn't specify when. And I think not specifying when probably says a lot about where the club's at right now in terms of everything's a bit up in the air. All right. I mean, I think this is the most clarity we had in terms of like giving a manager a 3-year deal that we haven't seen before. And this is why I'm quite optimistic, is the fact that at least this drastic change from the top this time. Not saying that there still isn't more, to be changed and whatever. We all know that. But I think just going for these kind of transfers now, it makes way more sense. I think, I'm going to be honest, in League One, right, even with, Joe Bennett or whatever, like you said, he hasn't got the pace anymore. He's not going to play, as the one of the 2 centre-backs. He's going to be in a 3, or he'll play left-back, but he won't have the pace against some of these, League One teams. A lot of these League One teams are a lot faster now. People say, "Oh, it's all physical," but I find a lot of League One teams, I see them on the counter all the time because that's sort of their go-to style. And I just don't think, I can't see a back 4 of Joe Bennett, Callum Chambers, all right, Will Fish, with probably the fast out of the 3, and then Perry and G. I just can't see that back 4 because you look at the back 4 and you see Will Fish. It's like, okay, we're prey on him not to make a mistake, and he's still young. So it's like, that's the 4 at the back I definitely do not want to see if we do go and get Bennett. So I think a more coaching role would be good. Whether he will do it, I'm not sure. I don't know if he's interested in doing something like that.
Yeah, it is an interesting one. Like, personally, I think it's probably more likely that Brian Barry Murphy would want a younger profile of player and more pace and stuff. It's just, I think it's a bit of an interesting idea because I do think his personality is exactly what that dressing room needs. Like, we need new voices. He was a very, very good servant to the football club, and he was a very, very good influence on the dressing room during his previous stint at the club. Now, if you're asking me if he's going to play week in, week out, then he's probably not, But a couple of comments I just wanted to address very quickly. Lewis saw a video about Ruben to Palace, any truth? I asked the question on the weekend to the tippity tip top, and asked about the bids for Robertson and Ruben. And like, the response is always back, like, how do you know that? But then the second response is also, I was told that it's very, 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 very unlikely that they'll sell either. But I would also say, as things are now, I think it's very, very, very likely that we see some outs and we see some loans. I don't think we're going to spend any money at the moment.
I genuinely look. This is a very weird situation. It's kind of like the Spurs finishing second and Pochettino kind of thing. I always think of this way, right? Of like, he spent no money on transfers, signed no one, no loans, nothing. Only a few players went out, and he just brought a few of the academy players too, I think, and they finished second place. And if I've got remembering that right, well, at least they finished Champions League spot. And I'm thinking, like, everyone was criticizing them, even their own fans saying, like, why do you bring any players in? But then he saw something that other people didn't. He knew how to use players and get the best out of them. And I think the main thing that we get this season about change is attitude change. It's not so much we've got the quality. I feel like, look, I genuinely, and this is just me saying my own opinion about this. And the reason why I'm so confident this season is because the one thing that will keep us from getting promoted is the attitude. It's the work ethic of the players, because we were way too good to get relegated last season. Evidently not, but in terms of like talent and ability we have in the squad. But because we had so many different personalities in the dressing room and some that weren't probably but were a bit problematic, that causes a lot of issues. And I just think that I don't know. I can't see us staying in this league. I know people say it's a tough league to get out of, but I look at our squad and Luton's squad, and then I look at the rest of the teams. I'm thinking like they just haven't. It's different quality, and again, this will bite me on the back. Maybe I hope not. I just can't see it. Like especially with Brian Murphy now, he's not going to give players fourth and fifth chances. I just
Yeah, I agree. I tend to agree, mate. I just think people have got to be patient and realize that if we're not spending money, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're not backing Brian Barry Murphy. Like I retweeted a tweet earlier which explains quite detailed why or how much financial trouble Cardiff are in potentially if things aren't managed properly, and we've lost a big load of income this year to TV and by relegation, and that's just a fact. But also, we have cleared out a load of wages. We've sold, we've moved up, or the players we've released have saved like millions of pounds. So it's not like all doom and gloom. I think there's brightness around the corner. You just got to be patient. But look, if it was me, I'd probably offer him like a player coach role. I would offer him a coaching role with him registered to play, because I don't really think he'll play. But I also don't think he's as physically gone as some people would have you believe. But equally, he has just come back from not just come back, but he had quite a serious injury as well. So, and he's not getting any younger. So, look, there's other options out there. There's other free transfers out there. And I think like the left-hand side is a worry at the moment. Maybe a shining light in that is that I did hear yesterday that they did a first team, or what is perceived as the first sort of 16 versus the players who are outside of that 16 over the last couple of days. And a few of the players who were sort of on the outside of that sort of perceived first team squad did quite well, and including Tsunoda, who's obviously a left-sided centre-back and a left-back, which is really fascinating because I was told at the start of the summer that no chance he'll definitely be going either back to Belgium or, whatever, because he's not quite up to the standard. But when you have a new manager, it's the same as in anything, and you have an opportunity for a fresh start, and you have an opportunity to catch the eye. And I think, from what I've heard, Eli King has done it. Tsunoda has done it. They've got to do it in game though now. They have to do it in a game situation to really cement whether they're going to get an opportunity. I know a few people were saying, "Oh, why hasn't Luke Pearce gone on the preseason tour? He scored a hat trick against Merthyr. We haven't got loads of strikers." But I think it was Jeff who said in the comments that Sligo in Ireland, where he was on loan previously, are very, very short of players at the moment, and they're obviously in their season. So I wouldn't be shocked to see him go back there for a couple of months on loan, which is why I think he probably hasn't gone. Were you shocked by anyone left out of the squad that travelled to Spain, mate, or was it as you sort of expected?
Top of my head, I can't really think of it. I saw that Anik wasn't in it, but I think that's due to injury.
Yeah,
if I'm right.
NG's out until December. So
yeah,
there's a few like that.
Someone said 5 weeks, but obviously that's changed. So maybe they meant 5 months. Yeah, I mean, it's a shame because it seemed like he was, I don't know, maybe he was going to stick around. I don't know. I think I was happy, but I don't know. It just feels like we still, after releasing so many players, we still have so many players in that squad. And I think I'm just worried that I hear the likes of Eli King and everything and Joel Colwell performing well now. And I'm thinking of look, all the people we got ahead of him in that position. Like Ryan Whittle's come back with a supposedly good mindset and wants to, get his name in the team sheet. And people are talking about him for potential vice captain. And then who else we got? We got David Turnbull. Where's he going to fit in? Alex Robertson. I generally it's a good problem to have in a way, but I'm generally worried that we're going to have to probably say goodbye to maybe Turnbull. I don't know. I quite liked him because I felt like he was really progressive in his passing, but I don't think we've ever really played him in his right position. So I wouldn't be surprised if he goes, but there was no sort of shockers going on the preseason thing apart. Maybe Atete, I was shocked that went on, but I don't know. Maybe he's changed because from what I heard of Bolton, it was a horror show for them.
Yeah, a lot of Bolton fans I've spoken to said he was the worst loan player they've ever had, which is encouraging. Another Du Bois special. Another special from Paddy Du Bois giving him a new contract to send him out on loan. But there we go. He won't be there much longer anyway. It's my prediction, I should say. It's my opinion, I should say. Not anything. It's my opinion. That Paddy Du Bois will be moving on. You got to be careful what you say, see.
You never know what happens at Cardiff, don't worry.
Yeah, no, look, right, and like Callum Robinson, someone messaged me the other day and said, like, they felt like I had a real problem with him. My problem isn't, I haven't got a problem with Callum Robinson at all. I thought last year, at the start of the season, the way he turned it around from an attitude and fitness point of view was really inspiring. And it was really something that you could get behind. What disappointed me is that when he's outside of those little streaks where he scores like 4, 5, and 5 or whatever, is outside of those streaks, he doesn't offer much. And I think that's where the problem lies. If he can offer more to the team outside of when he's in like goal scoring form, then I think he's a great player, especially at this level. Good grief. Like he could do some serious damage, but equally he's on high wages and if he's someone you can get some money for.
Yeah, every window I think he's going, and that's the mindset I've had for him, and he's still here. And I nothing against him, like the guy, like I think he's got some real quality. And I was rewatching the Swansea games recently, and when he scored those 2 goals, we won 3-0, and then Gutas scored the third. And I was just thinking, like, he was unstoppable then. He was such like a fox in the box, and you know, you get that for a few games, and then he'll go missing again. And you can't always say, you know, he's not always getting the service maybe, or it's just not the occasion. He's got other injuries. But it's like for me, every window I think, yeah, he's going to get bought or sold or whatever now. So,
well, do you know what was interesting is a couple of players who we've just mentioned, or you mentioned David Turnbull, and you obviously we're talking about Callum Robinson. Cardiff's best period last year was when we played Turnbull, Robertson, and Ruben as a 3, and we played Robinson up front through the middle as a number 9. And I've been on record of saying this before. When he was running in behind and running the channels and trying to get in behind and stretch teams, I thought he looked much more effective, but I also thought the team looked more effective. When he started to then maybe wasn't scoring or lost a bit of confidence, started to drop deep and try to like link up the play, if you like, and almost into like a number 10 position. All it did is cramp all the space for the wingers, the midfielders, the number 10. And I think he could be really effective. Now, it'll be interesting what system BBM goes for. Would he go for a different system at home and away? Like I've heard they're working on 2 different systems. One's 3 at the back, one's not. I would love to see a 3 at the back with 2 up front and see like either Robinson or Isaac with Salic up top and just do something different. But not many teams play with like a 2 up front these days, really.
It could work though, because I think people don't expect it. But at the same time, I like the 3-4-3. I always be a big fan because you can just let your wingers be wingers and attack. And then obviously you expect people with high levels of fitness for your left and right midfielders because they're basically wing backs anyway. So you kind of play in a bit more attacking 5 at the back in a way. But I think as well, when you play 3-4-3, you relieve some of the pressure off players like Capaccio and Giles to, you know, be overly defensive, and you can let them get forward. And I feel like you kind of it's a very symmetrical shape in terms of you've kind of got cover everywhere. Obviously, I know you're a little bit vulnerable in the counter attacks, but it's a really aggressive formation because I think that's what they were talking earlier this season about pressing in a 3-4-3 or something similar. I just find in League One, we just got to think first of all, League One, what's going to work, and if and when we get back to the Championship, then we'll have to probably change again. Because I mean, I know we tried to play possession. It's never worked for us. I know BBM's a lot more, you know, fluid in terms of what he plays now. But when we tried to play possession football under Bullet in the Championship, it was clear that was never really going to work. But there was a few games we actually pressed, and we pressed well. And I thought it was a shame we didn't continue with his plan B then. He just stuck to it. And, you know, I just really want to see us attack this season because last season we just didn't. We passed on the back so much.
It's have you ever seen the video on that sort of 3-4-3 or 3-4-2-1 system? Have you ever seen the video? It's like an overhead sort of graphic thing, and it shows you like how the team moves across the pitch, but it also shows you that 3-4-3 shape effectively is to create overloads all across the pitch, because you end up with like a box of 4 players. No matter where you are, you sort of, as you go across the pitch in almost like a semicircle, it's just you've always got like 4 players to create that sort of overload. And I think if you've got the right players, it's really, really effective. And I felt like Rhys last year was onto something and had the right idea, and then he got rid of it as it was you were starting to see some elements of it working. And I've said many times, I think that system suits the players we've got, because I think it takes the pressure off the young wing backs. If you've got a Giles or a Bagan or a Capaccio, takes a little bit of pressure off them, as opposed to playing as an out-and-out fullback in a 4. But it also suits, you can have like, I know, Ruben and Isaac, Ruben and Keane Ashford playing off Salic, whilst also having those 2 midfielders behind. And on the possession football, I agree with you. It's been like one of the reasons I think it was so, we were so bad at it, because of how slowly we do it. Now, in order for it to work, you're supposed to pull the opponent's press towards you and then either work through it quite quickly or a little ball over it, and then kind of take advantage of the fact that you've just taken 3, 4, 5 players out, because teams are pressing now in 4s and 5s because they're gambling that, we'll commit 5 players to the press in their box, because we'll gamble that if they get through it or over it, 3 of those players might get back, and if not, the other 5 players will be able to deal with whatever they sort of bring. And that's why it's so important to have pace up front or in the wide areas. So if you do get through the press, which I think I would expect Cardiff to do more this year, because Brian Barry Murphy's already working a lot on 1 and 2 touch, he's going to want to move the ball quick. And I think that, I think it's interesting how he sets up. I'm not convinced he'll go 3 at the back, but it's obviously an option because he's looking at it. And I do think 3 at the back, for instance, suits Joe Bagan, suits Dylan Lawler. You could argue it suits Jesper Darland a bit, to have a bit more security around him as part of a 3. I think it suits Capaccio, although I think we've got to really look after Capaccio. He's coming off the back of a really serious injury. Yeah. And I think I'm worried that with Perry and G out till December, we are like going to flog him to death. And I think that's a real issue for someone who's just come back from a long-term injury. So I do think, look, I've been honest, and I can only give an opinion. I think we're going to rely more on a couple of loans this summer, if I'm honest. And there's all sorts of reasons for that. Go on, you replied to that. There was a comment I wanted to find. So
all I was going to say is you talk about pace at wide and front, and obviously the obvious areas, but I genuinely think we just need a bit of pace in defence. I think because if we play, let's say play a 3-4-3, I think you're going to have a left centre back and a right sided centre back. Teams are going to probably play their own wingers, and they're going to hug the touchlines as well. And what that happened with Gutas when we played as part of a 3 last season. And the season before, Gutas would caught out loads because he'd be dragged out so far wide, and players would do it on purpose. And they knew that he didn't have the pace, so he was either going to foul them when they knocked the ball past him, or they would get a clear chance of goal. And then that makes him look silly, and he's left with basically one-on-one with the keeper then, or more or less. And that was really frustrating. It's like we don't have any pace in defence. I mean, I think Dylan Lawler was the brightest spark we saw against Aston Villa. Even players that say have less pace, they're playing at a faster tempo. I feel like some of our players, like when they start that, okay, we're going to pass in the back now, we're going to start. It's like it was a Monday morning for them all the time when they realized, okay, we've got to run this drill now. It was like that's how it felt when we were passing. And like you said, if we pass with more intention, even if we don't have the fastest players, I mean, Ruben Colwell isn't exactly that fast, but he's a fast decision maker. He's got really fast reactions. And if you let him, give him 3 players to to defend against him, and you wouldn't take the ball off him. But if you asked him to sprint in a straight line, he's probably not going to be the fastest person, is he? So I think it's really important that we have something in defence. I think Tsunoda maybe is, I don't want to say is the answer, but I think he could probably, if we see a bit more of him, he looks a bit more pacier than some of the other options we have, let's say.
Yeah, I think you're right. We lack pace generally, I think, in the team. Like, it's not a quick team. Isaac Davis is probably the one who I look at and I think, yeah, he's got some pace. Outside of that, I don't see a lot of it. There's not like that explosive pace over 5 yards, although Eli King supposedly has been given a bit of that in the midfield. So Lewis asked 3 players, in my opinion, that I think will leave. So what I would say is I wouldn't say that these are the 3 players I think will leave, but I would say these 3, if 3 more players leave the football club, these are the players that I think would probably be the most likely. Not that I think that we will get rid of them necessarily. And that would be Callum Robinson, because we could get money for him. He just signed a contract. He's a goal scorer, which always costs more, but also because he's on high wages. Callum Chambers, because he's the highest paid player at the football club. And I also question, I'm not sure where he gets into this side, even though I think he's a really good footballer. And I think he could be an option as that sort of holding midfielder. I'm not sure he's got the pace to cover the ground that Brian Barry Murphy will want him to if he plays in a 4-3-3. And then thirdly,
who was that other player you just mentioned there?
Callum Robinson, Callum Chambers, and then the last one would be Ollie Tanner.
I think is it.
But I want to clarify. I'm not saying they are going to go. Or Ethan Howarth, I think, will go.
I was going to mention him.
I would say he's one I would say I think will go because he's got a relegation clause for $500,000.
Oh, you are. But I think those you mentioned there, whether they go or not, I'm actually quite excited that they leave. But last season, or before I even saw them play, I would have thought like, oh no, we have to keep them at all costs. But I'll be like quite happy just to say, to go play somewhere else, and it's in a respectful way as well. Because I mean, Callum Robinson has been there a few seasons. It hasn't every time he's wanted it to click. It hasn't. He's either not agreed with the manager or something, got injured, and yes, he has a streak. So at least we can say that if you do get him, you've got a potential goal scorer that you've just signed, and you can play on the wing. You can play as a 10. Not to say he's all effective at each position, but I think that he really did want to do well for the club, but as other players as well. I just think that it didn't work out at Cardiff. I think it's just one of those, and I hate to say it because I really want him to work. He was one of my favourite players when he signed, because he's the one player when we signed those 17 players. Is the one player I actually knew that we signed, which is crazy. And after that, Steve Morrison got sacked. So yeah, but I think with him, for me, if I was to sell 3, it'd be Horvath, Chambers, and Robinson. I think again Tanner as well. I would have loved to keep him, but I look back this season and think like it's only really the Swansea and Bristol games, only really the derbies that I thought he stood out in, really, which is a bit interesting. But
yeah, I like I said, I'm not saying any of those players will leave. Maybe outside of Howarth, I'm just saying that if you're asking me who I think most likely would be there, they would be the ones. But look, realistically, the way the financial situation is at the club, every single one of those players has a price that the club will accept. There's not one that they will eventually turn down. Yeah. So Jonathan says 3 players you think I will join. Now that's naughty, isn't it? See? That's naughty. I will give you 3 though. Alex Robertson and Ruben Colwell will stay. So that's 2. And Yusuf Salic will stay. That makes 3.
That's amazing.
3 new signings.
That's all I need to know.
I wouldn't be shocked if we signed that Fleetwood Town goalkeeper because Brian Barry Murphy really likes him. And I wouldn't be shocked if we signed Darko Giabi either. I can't really give you a third. I'm trying to think who else. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if we got like a loan, like who else could there be? I would be shocked if we got like Charlie Crew or someone like that on loan.
See, I don't know if do we need another? Is he a defensive midfielder, right?
Yeah.
Do we need another defensive midfielder? I don't know. I know there's loads of cup games, but I mean,
if you look at it, right, your defensive midfield options would be Wintle, Chambers, Eli King, Joel Colwell, David Turnbull. Not in any particular order, just they would be your options as it stands. I would suggest that not all of those players will be come the start of the season, one way or another.
Fair enough.
Like it may whether they go on loan, whether they play a different position, like because as a few people rightly pointed out in the comments, Joel Colwell has played as a right back who inverts for on loan, and he's done it at the 21s. Like he's very capable of doing it. Now, I would not like to go into the season with our right back options being Kepakiao and Joel Colwell. Like, I think that's a real risk, and I think that's really unfair to those two players. But I also don't see him training every day. So, I don't know how far or how close Joel Colwell is. It's impossible. I don't know how well Eli King is doing. I hear that he's doing exceptionally well, and he's kind of like the favourite to be the number 6. But that doesn't mean it's true because things change, things happen. It is what it is. But I don't think that at the first league game of the season or when the window shuts, I don't think that we'll have Chambers, Turnbull, Wintle, King, and Joel Colwell. Like, I'm just guessing, Like, I just don't think that we'll have all of those players. On the flip side of that, Turnbull, Joel Colwell, and Eli King can also play as a more aggressive sort of number 8. So maybe they won't play. Maybe they won't play as the number 6. Maybe they'll play as an option with Alex Robertson or Ruben. So it's difficult until you start seeing the games in pre-season. It's difficult to really work out like who's going to play, who's not, who looks good enough, who doesn't. And look, I mentioned Ollie Tanner again, and I don't want to go down the same road. I know a lot of people think he could tear up League One. I don't think he's up to the level, but I hope he is. I hope he proves me wrong. I hope he not only proves me wrong, I hope he then tags me in social media and calls me a know-it-all tosser. But it's just an opinion, like based on football. So there was the comment I was trying to find. Someone said something about the Bullet start to the season last year in pre-season was really encouraging because we played out of possession. We were playing like 5 across the front. And I remember I can't remember what team it was, but one of the pre-season games, and I was sat quite high up and I got a really good tactical view of it. And we had 5 across the front, like the 2 fullbacks were as wingers. You had sort of the 2 midfielders or number 10s were like right up there, the centre forward. And then you just had Siopis or whoever sat with the centre backs at the back. And I was like, oh, wow, he's sticking to his word. He's going to be really, really aggressive coming into this season. Half time against Preston, it was gone and we never saw it again. And I think that was one of the beginnings of his downfall at Cardiff because they worked on something all through pre-season and then just abandoned it. And I think partially because I don't think, I think he was quite cold with some of the players, or like the way he manages is to be quite separated from the players, whilst his assistants and his coaches are the ones who are kind of interacting and, a bit closer with the group. And I just think that was one of the reasons that kind of contributed to the breakdown between him and the squad. And there's obviously a lot to it. And I did mention that. I know I mentioned that to Omar Risa on Thursday. I can't remember what his reply was. And I'm not just saying that. Like, I cannot remember what it was. I just remember that I got an Ollie Tanner agenda. That's what it is. It's like, come on.
Some people have a Ruben Colwell agenda and saying doesn't work hard, so I can check that back to people. I know.
Don't start me on that.
No, I'm the same with you, don't worry.
I get really frustrated with it. Like, I get it. Like, he didn't have his best season last year, and
Who
I
did?
think
You know?
I think he can do things better. I don't think he's the finished article by any means, but like saying he doesn't work hard is just it's just statistically not true. So, Chris Willock, seen someone earlier, had him. They picked like a first team and a second team of what we've got now, and they had some players in their first 11 which I would not have. I'm not even sure they would have made my second 11, but that was interesting. But it's all opinions in it. So that's interesting. Like, I did mention this in my video. Dan saying there Ryan Wintle will be captain. I think it's a massive risk to make him captain. I really do. I'm not saying he shouldn't be, because I think he's got a lot of traits that can make a good captain. But I think it's a big risk. Like, because number one, I don't think he's a guaranteed starter, and I think you should try to make your captain or as close to a guaranteed starter as you can do. And number two, my worry when players have had a bit of an issue with whatever attitude, moaning, etc., is will they revert to type if they get dropped? So let's say Eli King starts the first 5 games. Will Ryan Wintle then get frustrated again and have the similar issues that he had at Errol Bullet? Was it just an Errol Bullet issue? It's very, very difficult, but I think it would be a risk.
When I coach basketball to my seniors and what I've done so far at age groups, I very quick to pick out who the troublemakers are in the training sessions, who likes the attention, and a lot of it is attention, like, wanting to be right and everything. And one thing I pick up on straight away are the troublemakers, or even not so much that, but the people who just want all the spotlight on them. And yes, I can, there are moments or times where I see people change and they sort of like put their head down and everything. But I have to tell you, it doesn't happen that often at all. I think you get, like, if you tell a person, right, you're going to win the lottery tomorrow, no matter what you do, right, you can expect them to be bouncing around with joy and more. Like, that's going to happen. Same sort of thing if you get a new manager in place, maybe less glamorous, but it's the same kind of thing. The new manager bounce or whatever. I mean, look how much everyone wanted Omar Rhys in, and no disrespect to him, but like, didn't work out exactly as planned, did it? Albeit he was, set up to be a scapegoat or whatnot, but like, everyone was so, like, the players were so behind it at first, and to be fair, we did see some positive changes, but again, it's like I just lose respect that can't be gained back when players celebrate, let's say, managers getting sacked or things of that nature. It's like, it's just respect you can't lose. It's like, how many chances do you give your ex after you found out they cheated with you? It's like, I wouldn't. It's like, once that's happened, it's happened. And I find that, yes, people can change, but I don't want to take that risk and find out during the season, which I think is crucial, that we get off to a good start, because there's going to be patches where we're not going to be in form. And that's when you need the people who are, when they're through thick and thin, they're going to be with this club. People like Salek, even though any championship club could pinch up now, he says he wants to be at this club. Those are players I want with that mentality. The Ruben Colwells, the Joel Colwells, and there's so many other players. I don't want players to be like, yeah, we're just up for this, now when we're on a winning streak. I want people that if we are in the doghouse or whatever, they're just putting their head down and working, I didn't see that last season. I saw happy smiles on the training pitch after getting battered 7-0 by Leeds. It's like, I don't want players to be happy walking into training next day. I want people to shut their mouths and work, because that's, that's people, like, before it used to happen, right? When Southampton got beat, I think, by Liverpool like 5-0 or something before, they donated half of their wages to charity. They don't do stuff like that anymore because they realized it was embarrassment and they voluntarily did it. Like, I'm not saying we have to do that, but that's the kind of standard we have to set of, like, we can't just be happy smiles when things are going well. That's the way I see it anyway.
No, I tend to agree, mate. I think the thing with Ryan Wintle is, I agree with you. Once trust is broken, it's very, 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 very difficult to get it back. Of course, you can, but I think it's difficult to have it back. I think the thing with Wintle, and as Mark says there, it's about trust. But Brian Barry Murphy isn't the one whose trust he broke.
Mm-hmm.
So there isn't that to repair. So if he thinks he's got the right attitude and he thinks he's going to play, then I think it's an interesting one. Like I wouldn't give it to him personally. I think I said I was able to whittle it down to like 4, and then I couldn't really decide. I think I'd probably go with Yusuf Salic. What I expect to happen is tomorrow, I think Callum Chambers will be captain for one half, and I think could be anyone the other half. Like, I just think he'll go with experience. I don't think he'll necessarily think too deeply about it unless he's already made the decision. If he's already made the decision, then why not just like that person will be his captain? I know a lot of people in the comments over the last few weeks have said like Will Fish, Yusuf Salic is a popular choice. I know there's a couple which think Alex Robertson. I don't hate the idea of Robertson or Ruben. So I just saw someone, I can't find it now, but someone was saying like give it to Robertson and make him the kind of make him the guy. And I actually agree that I wouldn't be upset or shocked or disappointed if they gave like Robertson and Ruben the captaincy and vice captaincy together and just went, you're our guys. You're the you make things happen, lead this team. It's a new era. You're the face of it. Now go win us the league, and kind of gave them that responsibility. I think there's arguments for and against that. It's worked with certain people over the past couple of seasons. I don't believe, for instance, Callum Chambers will be the captain, and I wasn't saying that he will. I was saying for tomorrow's friendly, I could see him just giving it to him.
Yeah,
as probably the most experienced player in the squad. Just if he hasn't made the decision. If he's made the decision, then we'll find out, and he'll make whoever he's going to make captain. In my opinion, I think Will Fish is not a bad shout, but if Dylan Lawler gets a couple of games early in the season and is very, very good, as we all think he's going to be, and then we want a left-sided centre-back on the other side and we play a 4, Will Fish might not be guaranteed starting. Even though I think he's our best out-and-out defender, he might not be guaranteed to start. But also, Will Fish might be an option for right-back, which is another discussion, I guess.
Yeah, I think he did well. Everywhere he played, he did well. I think for his age as well, younger players tend to switch off in moments, especially set pieces. I think at a couple of corners, caught us off. But if that was his worst of biggest blunders and possibly missing an open goal with a head, it was so quick it happened. You can kind of forgive him for that in a way. But he, apart from that, he did his job well. I just think I wouldn't be opposed to giving Bagan captain, and I know that's probably going to be a bold shout. He's kind of a quiet leader in a way. I just feel like he's got that composure that the players haven't, and I can see him definitely playing as part of the 3 regularly. Whether I see him playing most games, I don't know, but I see like what Rhys saying there, like if someone already splits the fan base, and is it worth keeping the risk of making someone like Wintle captain? I don't know, but whoever they give it to, like I said before, you just gotta pick your guys and say like you gotta lead this team now. And some people, when they get that extra responsibility, they feel like they put in even more effort, and that's why I just hope that if we were to give it to like Colwell and Robertson, at least highlights them as you are the priority for our team. We're building around you, so that also adds to a little bit of a reason to keep them there at the club. Maybe if they just kept again, who knows?
It'd be interesting, mate. I think there's a lot of different choices. I just wanted to put this over there. Footy Status says, like we all think, it's only you pushing the Lawler thing and putting unfair pressure on a player with 2 games. Yeah, it's only me who thinks it. It's only me that thinks he's a special talent that the club should hold on to and not let his contract run down. Come on. Well, anyway. So, Joe Bagan's captain the youth seed sides as well. Yeah, like there's a few. Like I don't think you have to be 28, 29, 30 to be a captain. Like I think there's a lot of leaders. There's a lot of young leaders, like Dylan Lawler, just for instance, not saying he should be captain before anyone jumps on that, just saying he's been captain of, all the age groups at Wales and at Cardiff, although I'm not sure he was captain at Wales, actually. I should correct that. But he's been captain of Cardiff. He was captain of the under-21s when he was 18. Like, you don't have to be old to be a leader. Now, Joe Bagan, I don't hate that. I still think, I always come back to Yusuf Salic for numerous reasons, but I feel like
he's already got that leadership in him from the moment he came, didn't he? He set the example.
Yeah, I think he'll demand standards as well in training and things like that. Like, I think he feels like the right fit. Maybe they'll bring someone in who will end up being captained. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. Is there any free transfers that you think Cardiff should have a look at?
I did have a quick look on Transfermarkt, but I got to be honest, a lot of them look like way outside our price range. I know obviously it's free agents, but in terms of wages, the one thing that interested me, right, was that Kenneth Powell from QPR, left back. I thought, he's got a bit of pace about him. I think he's a solid option, like a reliable option, nothing too fancy ever, but he's valued still about £2.4 million anyway, so he's probably going to be asking, he's like any player we have is going to add wage, obviously. I think we'll probably benefit from, like you said, loans more this season. Just play the safe side in a way. I think we did really well in the embargo year with Bullet. I think he did really well considering we couldn't sign anyone, obviously getting Carlin Grant on loan. And it's been proven it can work. Obviously, can't depend on them. But I don't know. I don't see the only positions that we really need filling is goalkeeper, right back, and possibly left back as well, depending what system we play. And that Kenneth Powell was the only one I really thought of. I think he was another one. He was a former Bristol keeper, that Stefan Bajic I just looked at. He went on loan last season to France. I don't know how well he did, but I looked at a few clips of him. He looked all right. I mean, people saying, we can't sign Bristol players. I mean, we already signed Lee Tomlin and Callum O'Dowda, so it's like our beef with them isn't that bad, as signing a Swan. But I just thought I don't know much about them, but I just thought it'd be interesting. They look like we get them on pretty cheap for wages.
Yeah, there was a couple of keepers I quite liked. Chelsea have just released Lucas Bergstrom, who's like a 6'9" keeper.
Okay.
I don't know whether he'd come down to League One and all that sort of stuff. But he's young. So Footy Stat says that's not what I'm saying, and you know it. There's plenty of promising players at the club, yet we don't push all of them to play 40 plus games without really seeing them. Right.
We haven't seen them, but other people at the club have.
Yeah, and well, in fact, I've seen quite a bit of him, and also I would also say is like I never said he should play 40 games. In fact, the other day I said that if we can get him to about 20 appearances over the season, that would be a really productive season for his development. I think it's an amazing amount of pressure to put him under to like just throw him in, week out. If he impresses in pre-season, could you reward him as part of a 3 in the first game if they play 3 at the back? Yeah, go for it. Like, he's looked so composed and so at ease at first team football, then you've got to give him the opportunity. But I also think for some of these players, not all of them, some of them have played at League One level, like Eli King and Joel Colwell and Ryan Wintle, and there's a few others as well. Like, some of them have experienced it, some of them haven't, and some of them might need a week or two to get to grips with it. So you've got to just be mindful of it. And I think there's
by fire.
Just chuck them all in. I mean, to be fair, the way it's going, and the players that like I hear it, we're talking to this player, we're doing this or whatever. Like, I just like none of them are very old. I never said he should be considered for captain. Like, you're putting words in my mouth. what can you do? Sorry, right, derailed. See, Wilson Esperand. So I see a few people have said about that. I didn't think, like, I thought he was a really, really, really good technical footballer, but I just felt like he was one of them. It wasn't quite a winger and wasn't quite a fullback.
Yeah.
He was like in between.
He was a wing back, but that was it. But even then, he's like, I felt he was quite fragile. I know he got injured, but it's like, I don't know. It's just, he seemed like he didn't really want to get stuck in to the tackles as much. Like I feel like he made some, he's a pretty good dribbler and everything, and he had some pace about him. But that was like kind of all I saw of him before he got injured. And I don't think taking him on a season-long loan would be smart, considering that when he came to us, he basically spent all time getting injured, then went straight back. I think to bring him back again when we know that left back is still a light position we're in, albeit we got two options. I see Baker more as a centre back now, just because of seeing him play there. He's so much more effective. He's not, but he used to play as an attacking fullback. But I don't know. I feel like we need a solid option either on loan or someone who hasn't got a history of getting injured. And I know you can't predict that if they're going to get injured, even if they're not injury prone. But we just, like this season, we just need some reliable players who, I'm not saying they have to be standouts, but they have to fill this position, and that's all I'm really asking for if it's going to be a loan.
Yeah, I mean, we need robust players, and I would say that one of the concerns with Dylan Lawler is that he's not robust enough to play, several games a week, which is understandable. He's like 18 years old, and as if, like I said earlier on in the show, it's something that I really hope that we don't burn out K Pacquiao through necessity.
Yeah,
by doing it that way as well. But on Esperand, I think technically, he does suit the way that Brian Barry Murphy will want to play on that left-hand side. I think he'll get up and he'll overlap and stuff like that, and he's good technically. But on the other hand, I mean, he's a better option at left back than Joe Bennett is at this point, like which we talked about at the start of the show. But I think, was it a Swansea game where he absolutely just went to pieces, and he never recovered from that. It wasn't just that game. It was like a long Esperand.
Yeah.
I think it was a Swansea game. He just went to pieces during that atmosphere,
Swansea, yeah.
And he never quite got back to any sort of form. And then I think he got injured quite soon after that.
So wait to Swansea, I think it was, and Swansea Swansea always bring massive. I mean, Cardiff always do it for derby days, but I felt like with us this gone season, we really had to sort of amp up. We really need a crowd for Swansea. Whereas Swansea fans, they're always there, and they always make it a horrible place for us to go to, as you really should as a derby. Nothing personal against it, but it's just. You make that atmosphere as big as possible, and some players I can understand, because if I'm going to be honest, I probably would have crumbled, because I'm not a guy that gives it all to the derbies. I like a derby, but I've never been to a Swansea game. Purposely the fact that I just like the peace without it, and I watch it from my home. But I would crumble under it, to be fair. But again, you need someone who isn't going to crumble. I mean, it's as easy as that. Yeah.
So who was I just looking at? There's a comment there. I can't find it. Where's he gone?
We'll give him a rest tonight.
Yeah, no, I was trying to find. There was another comment about. No, I can't find him. So I personally wouldn't go for Wilson Esperand, but I could see the logic in why Brian Barry Murphy might want him, but he wouldn't be my selection. But then maybe you've got to look at who's available, who's not, and go from there. There's players out there. It's just whether you can find the right player, and it's about balance as well. It was about Louis Giles. That's what it was. Where Liam there said, I think we definitely need another experienced left back to replace O'Dowda, with Giles still young and playing big and a centre back and left back. Yeah, I do think we have to bring in a left back. I think we look really light down that side. I think, and this is was purely a guess, I think Louis Giles might go on loan. I don't think he'll be in with the first team group this year. I might be wrong, but I just guessing. But I think he would be. But there's players out there that Cardiff can try and get. Oh, that was the other one. I'm sorry, mate. That was what I was
No, you're
going
good.
back to. Lewis says, "Do you think we will spend a penny?" So it's difficult to say, mate. Like it really is. Like I do think we'll get a couple of loans in for definite. Like I think Brian Barry Murphy will get some young lads in through his connections, and they will go. And you got to remember, Lee Riley's job was player ID as well. So like he's gonna be very well equipped to pick players to fit the way that Brian Barry Murphy wants to play, and also pick out imbalances or issues within the Cardiff squad and the group. So, it's not I know people were a bit disappointed that they didn't add more coaches, but like I just think having them as long as the board allows them to make the decisions on who they want in and who they don't, it is what it is, isn't it? Like you've got to trust the process, as you say.
Yeah, again, it's always the thing is, we're rebuilding this year. Like every season, it's like, trust the process. He's building, he's cooking, all that, and it's like half the time they end up finishing like bottom. It was like Graham Potter at Chelsea. I mean, he could have come good, but reality is they were like, he's building, trust the process, and as long as you keep that going, as long as you dangle the carrot just a bit above, some people over there. But I think it is important to realize that Brian Murphy's building his squad, not ours, and we might all claim to be football experts, even though we're not. But I think, he probably has a much better idea than us of what he wants. Obviously, he's not going around telling everyone what he wants. Maybe he sees something in Wilson Esperand or other players that we don't. And sometimes it just clicks with the different managers. And I've been waiting for it for a while to click, but I'm genuinely just praying. And I'm really confident this time that the likes of Ruben Colwell will come even better than what he already is, because no manager's been able to get a tune out of him. I mean, Christ, Warnock didn't even think there was any youth players that were any good when he was there. But yeah, you had the likes of Isaac Davis, Ruben Colwell, Mark Harris. It's like these are decent players, but some managers just can't see it, and I don't understand how we couldn't see it. But it's just the way it is, and
it doesn't. They didn't fit. Like Warnock's got a certain idea of player, a certain profile of player that he likes to build his teams with. And Brian Barry Murphy is the same, which is why when we were talking about Joe Bennett earlier, I don't think that is, it's one of those. It's just, it kind of is what it is. I think he'll go for quite young players, and I think we're going to have potential. Well, depending on the outs now, like if we were to sell the likes of, say, Callan Chambers or Robinson or anyone like that, any of those more senior players, I think we're definitely going to have the youngest squad in the league. I'd have to check like against the average age of some of the other teams, but from what I'm guessing, I think we'll have one of the youngest sides in the league, because it's just it's all about the coaching, mate. At the end of the day, like. And if the players understand their roles and the tactics and the way he wants to play, and can they execute it? Can they take the chances when they come? There's so much that goes into winning a football match at the end of the day, innit? It's like, it's not as simple as do this and we'll win. It's like, there's so many elements to it. Just going back to Lewis asked about like spending money and stuff. And I don't, she just said it was all the stuff about backing BBM kind of rubbish. I don't think it was. I just think like certain things are developing and certain things has happened. But I do think they haven't got an excuse, because I do think even if things happen with sales and the rest of it, I do think that they freed up enough money in wages that they should be able to bring in, one or two. Not saying they have to go spend millions, but they should be able to bring in one or two players to strengthen what he's already got there. What do you think about this then, Evan, just to sort of round us off this evening? Mark says there, Sunderland showed the way last year with youngsters and loans. Is that the way for Cardiff City, do you think? Or do you think we need experience?
I think they had experience, though, didn't they? They had quite a few. What's that name? That 09 or a few of them. I can't remember now. I think I'm not sure if he might be young as well, but I think it's not so much about the age of the players. I think we think that age equals experience, which in a way it does, because as you get older, play more games. But like I genuinely think I wouldn't be surprised, right, if Labrie was one of those coaches that was like, he wasn't just about the football, because I know a lot of coaches, and again, I always go to basketball because I play, but I think it's Phil Parkinson or whatever, but he got players to do like meditations outside. He got players to document what they were eating, making sure they're in bed in time, like wearing a Fitbit to bed every night, like I do, to track how much sleep I get. I had a feeling it was much deeper than just like young players playing really well under a good manager. I think we need to do more stuff like that, like really monitor things. Stop, going down Chippy Lane every weekend, or like, going for drinks all times. I got a feeling, just allegedly, I'm not saying anything's happening, but like, I feel like some players were just a bit too eased off the pressure. A bit like some players needed a bit of cortisol raised in them to get a bit of stress up and actually perform. I think that, like, we really miss out on all these other areas. It goes so much deeper than just the squad. So I think that's what happened to Sunderland, because I came in, I saw that manager come in, no idea who he was. I predicted them to finish, I think, 15th, Sunderland, last season, which says a lot. So there was clearly like something else. It wasn't just a managerial change, because you look at young players, they had so many young players in their squad. The pressure to perform there consistently, they must have had some kind of like mental condition as well. I know it sounds silly, but like, even I do it sometimes, like meditating, because it's a lot. Like championship football is no joke, and no league is, but the championship is mad, and you have to be somewhat delusional mad to put that many youngsters in there. But the fact that it worked, it shows you've got to be a bit crazy at times. I think that's what might catch people out. We'll have going with one of the younger squads, and we'll surprise people. I think, maybe one or two will crumble, but I don't think BBM's stupid with it. If he sees that they can't handle the pressure, he'll bring them on as a sub sometimes instead of just starting them. I don't think he's going to be reckless with it. He clearly has a plan, and that's what I like to see. He hasn't even brought anyone in yet, so he knows, I'm gonna see who works in what position. So maybe he's looking at the squad and goes, you know what, we're like literally one or two signings away from what I want, and that's it. So I trust them anyway. I trust that we can do it. And my only worry is that I'm only seeing players going out now. And I'm not worried about that. I'm just thinking a lot of our senior players are going out. We need at least a couple. That's the way I see it. Yeah, let him cook, yeah.
It'll all come out in a wash now over the next couple of weeks. We'll see where we are in a month, is what I say. 8th of August, see where we are then, because I've got a feeling that things will look very different in that period of time.
Trust the process.
Trust the process. No, I think in like a month's time, we'll know where we are really. And I'm excited but cautious, because I worry that we haven't got enough cover in some quite important areas at the moment. But as I said, you'd expect him at the very least to bring a few loans in. So I don't think it's time to panic yet, is it?
No, I think I'm trusting the manager right now, that he has a level head. I think that time at Rochdale, I think he learned a lot from that. In the same way, Omar Reza, when he goes into his next job, I'm assuming he's going to continue, I think his next job, he will excel a lot more, because he'll find the right club. He'll take more time to think about it. Think of Omar Reza. He's learned so much, and I'm sure when we see the interview, like, you learn so much just from day one of the job, I'm sure. So and he's been around, the likes of Pep. I know he's not Pep. I don't want people to say like, oh, he's going to play like Pep Guardiola. Every press conference is going to be like, oh, are you trying to play like Pep? And it's like, no, he has his own thing. And I trust that he has got level head. The way his press conferences, it was so refreshing. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, we're going to get 3 points, blah, blah, blah. It was like he went into detail every question that he answered. So that brings me hope. Yes, I'm cautious, but I'm just letting the excitement get to me right now. So
Good for you, mate. Why shouldn't you be allowed a bit
Exactly.
of positivity? You've just been relegated. It was painful and quite
Yeah.
frankly depressing. So why shouldn't you be allowed to be excited? If you're excited, be excited. That's what I say.
Yeah.
Everybody's opinion is welcome. I say that all the time. Everybody's opinions is welcome. No one has to agree with me, as long as you're not like a dick about it or you're not rude. Yeah, mate. I don't want to. Mate, I don't. I actively encourage people to disagree with me. Like I like it, but as long as people are not like a knob about it, and I don't look. I would say, what's his head from earlier? I can't remember what his name was, but like, I don't think he was particularly like obnoxious or rude. Like he did say one thing where I was like, I didn't even say that, but apart from that, like he just disagreed, and that's all right. That's all right. I just realised, Ev, that oh, there you are, it's back. My screen just froze. So
I didn't want to say anything else unless it caused more freezing for both of us. Then it would just be like a little nice portrait of each other.
Yeah. So there we go. Like Brian Barry Murphy, he's going to play like he's going to win every single game 5-0. We're going to win the league.
We said he's the new Pep.
Yeah. Nah, he's the new Brian Barry Murphy. I think he's going to be impressive. We're going to win every game 5-0.
I think so. Yeah, I think
setting world records.
Be like Plymouth versus Plymouth every week.
Yeah, Rhys. Yeah, Rhys. You're allowed to disagree in the comments and on the show. You're not allowed to disagree with me in the WhatsApp group. That's the way that works. So
that's why I joined.
It's all good. So Matt is back tomorrow with, I think he's with Rhys actually for the post-match show. So it'll be after the game. Join him, get involved, have a chat. We've also got a video on Will Spires tomorrow, which is out at about lunchtime. So we'll be back on that lunchtime schedule now from tomorrow. So make sure you check that out. It's got an interesting one. So that's an Academy Spotlight video, which is on Will Spires. And then we got a Spotlight video on Isaac Davis coming on Thursday. So,
I really like the Kean Ashford one you did recently. I think he will be the star player this season, Kean Ashford. I think he just found his form towards the end with Omariza, and I think he'll tear it up. I think he'll probably be the best EB player of the season next year, or Salek, either him or Salek.
I think he'll really suit. I think it will really suit the way Brian Barry Murphy wants to play. And I'll do a breakdown show the day after the game, so that'll be Thursday. So that'll be Thursday night that I'll do that. But I might. So CCFC Insider just took the words out of my mouth. He said, "Will you be doing any type of tactical breakdown for tomorrow's game? I think it'd be interesting to see the habits in the first game." Yeah, I will. It's really frustrating that. It's really frustrating that you can't use the footage on screen, because I would love to be able to do it, but you just can't.
Massive shame.
So it's a bit frustrating. You can do it with stills, but it's a lot more like effort and editing and
talking about still. Will still be at Southampton by Christmas?
Yeah, they'll get promoted.
Get promoted, do you think?
Yeah, I think he's a really talented guy, and he's quite an innovative guy. I quite like him. Yeah, I like anyone though who goes against the grain.
He's a Norwich fan apparently. I'm surprised he didn't take that job because but no, I think we were very loosely linked at one point to Will Still. Like people were saying, "Oh, we should get him in," and I was thinking, he's probably not going to come to us. But then again, we got Brian Barry Murphy. I think that's still a win anyway. So
yeah, I think Brian Barry Murphy might turn out to be a really clever appointment, but as is with football and with anything, I might be, he might be gone by September, and I might have egg on my face.
No, I can't now. I'm in a good mood.
But again, just on that, like CCFC Insider says, interested. He got Paul Trollop as his assistant. I think that's a really clever appointment. Paul Trollop is an excellent coach, and it's a really clever appointment because some of those players, not all, some of those players within that Southampton group, they won't fully know what to make of Will Still. They won't fully trust him. See, it's just a football thing, isn't it? It's because they'll be in their back of their mind. It might even be subconscious, but in the back of their mind, they'll be like, he's never played the game. You know, he's this, he's that, he's football manager, blah blah blah. Whereas Paul Trollope is respected throughout the game as being an excellent coach. So I think it's a real clever appointment. And I really like play. I just like people who go against the grain. So
I'm the same. I think
all about Will. It's
not going to be like a Lampard at Chelsea doing football, doing career mode, is it? When he was just signing everyone.
Chelsea's still doing that. Just sign everybody.
7, 8 year, 9 year deals was crazy. Yeah.
It's madness. Yeah, right. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. Academy Spotlight. I shouldn't do an Academy Spotlight because I'm putting pressure on the players by demanding that they be captain. So yeah, the video coming tomorrow is Will Spires will be the new captain of Cardiff City. You heard it here
nice
first.
One. Can't wait.
Nice one, guys. In a bit. If you can't have fun with it, then what are we doing? Have a great evening. In a bit.